All right, it's the Security Weekly News, and this is going to be part two of Rinoa Poison, The Coming Storm. It's episode 567 of the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and if you missed Tuesday's episode, go back and watch that one first. Otherwise, it gets confusing, and we're not going to do one of those like previously on. But I'm at RSAC this week, so is Josh. And you may well be too, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun and watch cool podcasts at the same time. It is Friday, the 27th of March, and it's the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter, METER. Zero trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold. Trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's zero trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. All right. And now the conclusion of Rinoa Poison. Rinoa Poison is a very, very, very successful persona. I'm going to call you a persona at this point that specializes in scam baiting loathsome scammers on the Scamtron, and is a huge presence on YouTube and Twitch and all these kind of things, recording the abuse of scammers, which is called scam baiting. Now, I think a lot of us have tried this in the past, and probably some of us had mixed success. Mostly we got hung up on and sworn out, or we weren't smart enough to live stream our antics and maybe not interesting enough. But Rinoa Poison has 107 million plus views out there, multiple personas, a whole community backing them. Pets, are the pets real?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if they were real. I mean, it's like, I'm
They're
always
real
talking about
cats.
Yeah, I'm always talking about my cats puking in the background, and I'm like, did anybody hear that splat? I hope not. But sometimes we've had some quite interesting occurrences, including a cat barfing on my lap and things like that. But
I mean, let's be honest, cats are the original actors, so they're perfect for this.
yeah, and they're the original divas too. So it's like my cat's
details.
mad right now. She gets really upset when I do shows because she wants all the attention. Actually, she walked off. She's that mad. But we got Josh Marpet,
Like
we got Rinoa Poison, and on Tuesday we talked about some of the kinds of things that that involve scam baiting, so some things like that. And today I think we want to talk a little bit about how you can sort of spot this stuff, how you can prevent it, rather than how you can become a scam baiter. Although I'm sure you could get lots of tips on that from Rinoa Poison's channel if you're interested in the community there. Scams have been around as long as primates, essentially. I often have been one to mention the Code of Hammurabi just because it's so much fun to say. But, the Code of Hammurabi is from 1754 BC, and it sets down laws against fraud, dishonest merchants, speaking of cats, sleazy contractors.
Well done. Well done.
And you may name it. It was printed on a cuneiform tablet. I mean, that's how long, and I'm sure this was going on long before somebody wrote it down. Yeah. I mean, like they chiseled a tablet, putting fresh grain on the tops of barrels of rotting grain. Like, that's a scam, right? I mean, that was an old scam, and it's like, putting fake hot dogs on top of the really nasty hot dogs down at the bottom of the bin, and you reach down and give somebody those, or walking around Europe with fake papers that say you're Lord Barry Lyndon of Chatsbury, and that kind of fun stuff. So I thought we should talk a little bit about what are the like current raging scams that are going on right now.
I guess the big popular ones that have been kind of going around is the PayPal emails. You'll see them and you'll be charged for something you didn't pay for. Those ones are pretty
Mm.
common. You'll see them in your spam folder a lot of the times. Sometimes they'll get out, and that's usually where you'll see them. Oh no, a charge. Better call the number. It's a scam. You have like a lot of the AI ones that are going around with like Elon Musk with crypto, and like or insert celebrity here. They're pushing some worthless coin that pump and dumps they call them. Those are really, really popular. So those are probably the ones to look out for the most. They're really just kind of the ones you
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
pay
I
attention to.
think that would be like the symptoms, of that is like money is a big symptom, because when somebody says the charge, I think fewer people were believing some Nigerian prince was gonna send you a lot of money, but when you get that email that says your account has just been charged $987.13, click here if you'd like to dispute this charge. That's a pretty good scam, and
Yes,
people tend to click that. I was gonna ask both of you, have you ever seen Paper Moon?
Paper Moon. No, I haven't seen that.
I don't think
Oh.
so. What is that?
You just make it up.
No, I did not. I gotcha. I gotcha. I was gonna sell you shares in it if you wanted to invest. Paper Moon, I was thinking about why I liked scams, like why I got interested in this in the first place. And Paper Moon was a film. Peter Bogdanovich directed it. It's quite old. Tatum O'Neal, who was 10 years old, played this little girl named Addie Logan, and her father is Ryan O'Neal. And they're driving through the Midwest in the Dust Bowl era selling fake Bibles. And he would come in and show you these family Bibles and all these options, and you pay him a deposit, and then of course you never actually get anything. It's just he just leaves town. And it was kind of the Music Man kind of scam sort of thing as well. And the Music Man, obviously, I thought that was what I focused on in that musical was this guy is going from town to town selling these towns brass band equipment that never shows up, and he's long gone. And but yeah, I actually have used the name Moses Prey, which was the name of Ryan O'Neal's character, and I've used the name Addie Loggins before in fake stuff, because I love little Easter eggy things like that. I just know if you would have seen that. That's a great movie, though. It's a really it's all about the scam. I guess a little feel good. How about click fixes? This is one I want to be sure everybody out there is familiar with. This is a very common scam. Have you seen those on the rise?
Click fixes. What exactly is
Explain?
that?
Yeah, thank you, Rinoa.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
I feel stupid.
I'm
like,
just checking. So click
Yeah.
fixes are a combination of things. They can be an email, they can be a pop-up. They're more commonly pop-ups when you go to a certain website and a box pops up that says your computer has a virus. Click here to repair. And of course, this then sends you to the scammers who then want to install some remote management system on your machine. And they're very, very
Tech
common
support.
these days.
tech support, you're virus ridden.
A tech
you're having a
support
problem.
scam,
Got it.
kind
Okay.
of thing. Very common ones. And I've messed with those before too, but you definitely need a virtual machine.
So I have seen them. Yeah, they are common. They're coming out of favor a little bit more for the refund
Yeah.
scams. They seem to be taking more or they're combining the two. They seem to be several like layers of it. Like they'll get you with the pop-up, so you call and then they get on your computer and then they attempt the refund scam, which is like getting into your bank account, changing some numbers.
Same thing.
I
Yeah.
do still see them. They're not as common. I think people are just like kind of figuring it out, like as it becomes less and less successful, I imagine you move over to something else. So
They have to
but
keep
yeah, they get onto
shifting.
your
I
they
mean,
do,
because
yeah, they have to evolve as well.
there's so much information now about this kind of stuff, and I mean, and there's shows, and there's fun shows, and there's serious shows, and on and on and on about this, and so I think more people are familiar with that. one of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you have some like key symptoms? Like what if I'm looking at something? What are I mean, and I have some, and I'm sure Josh does too. But what are some key things you would say to detect a scam?
Oh, definitely if it's too good to be true, that's always if it feels too good to be true, if you're getting that discount on something and it's like 90% off, likely a scam. If you're getting charged for something, maybe just contact your bank directly, see what's happening, figure out what's going on, kind of educate yourself. I know people sometimes they see something and they just want to deal with it right then and there. Pressure is like whenever you feel like somebody's pressuring you to do something, that's always a red flag. That's kind of a good tell to see if, like if it needs to be done now, you have to get this done now. That's usually a bad sign for you. Usually if you need some time, take a step away, kind of refocus on what's happening, because that's usually the good tells of scams.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first times I ever talked to a scammer, the person was pressuring very hard, saying that my system had been infected and that my system was being used to attack. Now, I was picking this up pretty quick. This person obviously was not from the United States, uh, just based on the things they said. They kept saying that my system was being used to attack the Royal Armory or something like that. And I was like, the what? And I was like, I'm in Topeka, Kansas. Where's the Royal Armory? And he was like, the Royal Armory is in Topeka. And I was like, oh, is it? I was like, I did not realize that the
That's
king
an
had put a
obscure
Royal Armory.
Armory.
Yeah, and he
The
was
more
like,
you
no,
know.
he has. The king has put a Royal Armory in Topeka. And I was like, wow,
sorry.
that is terrifying. I was like, so when the king is coming here next week. I was like, so when the king is here, is he going to like visit the Royal Army? The guy's, yes, he is, but you will be in prison. You will be arrested today, and that kind of stuff. And I had one once who was saying the police are coming. So this was another one that the police were coming to arrest me. And he kept saying it was
One
something.
if by
It
land,
was like,
two if by sea. I'm just having this vision.
he kept calling. But he had it all wrong. It wasn't Paul Revere. It was like, Guy Fawkes is riding on a horse into the night or something. But yeah, it was, again, he was using like the British version of like the IRS, and I was like, really? I didn't know I owed them any money. And he's like, oh, you do. You owe them a lot and they're coming to arrest you right now. And I was like, okay. So yeah, so some of my things are urgency. I think urgency is one of the key. Try to get people to react before. Like one I almost fell for once was about my daughter, and they had a lot of info. They had her school, they had all the right names, and it came from the head of the school who said, your daughter is stuck here. We're going on a field trip today to the meat packing plant or something. And if she doesn't have this signed form right now, she's going to be left behind and you'll need to come get her right now. And I was like, okay, let me click that. I was like, I can't believe she didn't bring this form home. And then I was like, wait, why would they reach out to me? They know I'm an irresponsible clown. They would have contacted my wife. And, and then I took it and put it on my sandbox and opened it. And, it was malware. It wasn't really a scam as much as it was trying to get me to run this script on my machine. So I think urgency is a big one. Money is always one to me because, if somebody's just talking to you, they could be trying to get your creds. Absolutely. But the minute they start wanting money, I know something's up because these are the oldest scams in the book. I mean, there used to be these guys outside the Port Authority, outside JFK Airport. There used to be a guy outside JFK who would come running up and tell you it was the old pigeon drop scam of his money. He has millions of dollars in a suitcase and it's being held by the customs and he needs to pay these import duties. And if you'd go in on it with him, and then this kind of, this very old physical scam. But the minute they start asking me for money, I'm immediately on edge. I mean, even if it's legit, when they're calling, when you haven't paid your electric bill, yeah, you're scared, and then they're like,
Jesus
no, really, I work, I'm sorry, I just work for New England Electric. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought you were a scam artist. And they're like, no, you actually didn't pay your bill. And I'm like, okay, sorry.
I mean, that's a common call for you, Doug. So, but
it is, yeah, they're always on me about that.
What
stuff.
I'm hearing is that these are the same cues as social engineering, and it's urgency.
Absolutely.
It's urgency, it's embarrassment, it's shame, it's wanting to help. These are the things. Is this effectively correct? Is there anything extra in scamming other than?
That's pretty much that's your
Yeah.
your typical ones. Once you realize you're getting pressure or sort of embarrassment or money, whenever it involves money, it's usually like kind of like you got to be careful of that stuff. If somebody's asking for money, and that's where romance scams come in, when they're asking you for this and that, hey, we'll be together if you can pay for my flight. Send me this on a green dot card from, it's like,
Oh
Uh-huh.
God.
come on,
Oh,
it's
I did one of those. This woman called us, and it was exactly that, because she was an older woman, and she had been approached by somebody on a dating site or something, and he wanted her to fly him, from like Venezuela or somewhere, and but she had to send the money because she offered to buy him a ticket. She was showing me all these emails, and she offered to buy him a plane ticket, and he was like, "Well, no, I need you to send me the money. You can't do that. You have to buy the plane ticket yourself in Venezuela. You can't have another person buy it," and all those. And I mean, and it's a foreign country. I didn't know, but she had sent this guy a lot of money, like around
ugh.
$5,000, and which is not a lot to the FBI, but it's a lot to this person. And she was wondering, of course, the sad question was, can I get my money back? And the answer, of course, is no. You're not going to get that money back.
That's a popular scam that I see popping up a lot too, is these recovery scams. Um,
Mm.
they target
Oh,
people. They go into like Instagram or Discord or any really social media.
Reddit.
They'll sometimes target YouTube, Reddit, and they'll just be like, "Oh my gosh, I got all this money back from such and such," and then they'll leave a link, and you follow this link, and it's a website, and it's dressed up really nicely. It's not one of those broken sites where you click something and nothing works. Everything is functional. It's very sophisticated, and those seem to be on the rise of targeting people that are already vulnerable from scams. It's kind of like the perfect storm. They're already susceptible to scams.
Well, they even have that stuff. There's malware as a service sites that you can actually subscribe that build all that out for you. So you tell
Yeah.
them, like, I want to use the IBM, or I'm going to use the Bank of Middle America or something, and they have tools that, like, AI build out sites that are complete replicas of real sites that actually have working links and blogs, and I build sites like that all the time for my students, because it's really interesting to me, and I have a lot of like fake. They're not on the real internet, but they're on my like private network, and it's really interesting to build that kind of stuff out. But yeah, I think people have gotten smarter, so they get smarter too, right? They have to add to the illusion, just like you have to add to the illusion as well, because when I was doing some of this on a telephone, it was a lot easier than if I was doing it on a camera. It's easy
Yeah.
to pretend to be my dad on my phone in 1995. Actually, I could pretend to be my dad now. Time caught up with me, but I just need to put on a hat and be a lot stodgier. But I mean, I think they've gotten smarter, and you're having to play a tougher game, right? I mean, it's not so easy to pull this off at this point, because you can't just skip town at the end of the conversation.
Of course, and we've gotten like props. Like I have little prop bills because a lot of times they'll ask us to ship money, and then we need to have a parcel, and we need money, so we have the prop money. We have we always have to be evolving as well, because you can't just keep pulling money pictures off the internet. They know how to do reverse Google searches just as much as you do.
That's awesome. Yeah,
So
no,
it's
I've
just
seen a
it's
couple where you
constantly
had like
evolving.
prop bucks on, and they got to be good, right? Because they would need to be
Yeah,
like, and that's tricky, because if I can tell that it's monopoly money, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, this isn't real. That's
and
pretty good.
luckily
You
they
can
don't deal with like they're not in the U.S., so you can get
yeah.
away with some things because
well,
they don't
true.
know everything.
You can just
Well,
be holding up a
Federal
whole bunch
Code
of
72 says that you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I've got a whole box full of like weird foreign money upstairs that like I never cashed in, and like some of which no longer exists. So like, here's all my, my 10,000 lira that, I forgot to cash out before that ended. So that's pretty interesting. So how do you
I've offered
think?
this to scammers before. I
Oh,
don't know
I've
if
got
you've
one of
ever seen
those. Yeah,
that.
the $10 billion bill from Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. That's an actual bill, by the way. That's real money. Of course,
No,
it's
it was issued.
worthless.
Yeah. It was worth enough that you could buy like an apple with it or something, because of the
Oh, I don't think maybe an
hyperinflation.
apple seed. I don't know. Like it was
Yeah, you have an opportunity to grow an apple. Yeah, with 10 billion.
exactly.
So both of you, how can we teach people how to armor themselves? Scams have been going on since the dawn of time, so obviously they work. they're going to keep working. There's always that person that's just so, I knew somebody like this, and they were so nice and so empathetic and so gullible that they would just always fall for scams. Like, I had a friend once who got robbed all the time in New York, and she was like, "How do I stop getting robbed?" And I was like, well, tell me what you're doing. And she was like, "I don't know. So I want to watch," and she's like walking the street. She got her arms full of stuff. She's carrying an expensive musical instrument in an obvious musical instrument case and a giant handbag with, like, I was like, all you're missing is like money sticking out of the top of your handbag. Like, maybe stuff some $100 bills that stick out, because you're obviously attracted. But how do we armor ourselves against this without just becoming total cynics like me?
It's difficult because sometimes scams are targeted. Like, I know you've had that email directly to your that about your daughter, about the meat plant. It's like those are it's exactly targeted to. Those are sometimes the hardest scams to watch out for because they're so targeted. And then again, it's just the pressure, right? Like, if you feel like this needs to be done now, money, it's cash, it's urgent. Those are like the biggest red flags to maybe just take a step back for a second. Like, the IRS has already come out and said that they're not going to, hunt you down with a squad to bust in your door. That's just not going to happen. It's, you have to be, just keep in mind with things that are like reality, right? Like, when somebody's saying, "Hey, that person may not be real. Have you met the person? Have they called?" Things of that nature, right? Those are some of the best tells. Sometimes it's just like,
It's tough.
well, it's tough. It's tough.
Okay,
Josh,
so
you got any good ones?
yeah, I mean, use your critical faculties. Be introspective.
Yeah.
Don't be in the moment. Like, oh my God, urgency, urgency, urgency. Someone's in pain. I must help right now. There's an orphan that with only 56 cents a day, I can solve all their meal problems. Like, huh? Wait. What are you telling me? Why are you telling me this way? Like, think introspectively. And I've got an idea. Anybody who's a parent has had a child lie to them. Okay? And you have to go, "Your foot is hurting." What? I just saw you hopping around like a bloody frog 5 seconds ago. And by the way, anytime you have a cat, because this will resonate for both of you, every third time they're asking for food, they're lying. Okay?
No,
I'm
every
starving
time.
to death.
Every
I'm
time.
Every
starving.
time. No,
I'm
it's not every
wasting
third
away.
time. It's every time. I mean, my cats will sit beside their food bowl, which has just been filled, and look at me like, "I want more."
So
we don't
My
even have
partner will
hungry
give them
cats.
treats.
Yeah, we
My
don't even
partner will
have
give
hungry
them
cats.
treats. I'll come down, give them treats. Then they'll ask for more treats.
Yeah, we used to have a hungry cat that was just always hungry. I mean, it would eat anything that it would eat your food, its food. It was always hungry. No matter how much food it had, it wanted more food. Yeah, it was.
I had a girlfriend whose cat would eat the entire can of cat food, wet cat food, eat the entire bowl of dry cat food, and then sit on the table. And when she would try to eat cereal, he would grab the bowl and drag it over to himself. In all seriousness, I mean, like, use your critical faculties. And when I do security awareness training, it's what I teach them. Like, look at the email and go, "Is this reasonable to ask for gift cards from the CEO? Is this reasonable to say what we're changing an account number with no verification? Is this reasonable? Like, is it reasonable? Don't do it now. Stop, think, breathe, and then think again." That's what I teach people. I don't know if that's
what we taught people
valid.
and what as consultants was we used the thing I called the 2-key theory. And I sort of stole that from old nuclear weapon stuff where you had to have two people to turn the keys. It was one person couldn't just say, "Yeah," I mean, it was like you had to have two. And I was like, anytime that money's involved or somebody's asking for something that you don't know, well, always maybe have that second person, to come in. Because we were looking at this for an actual account swindle where someone had called. They sounded like the vice president, probably an AI voice, and it told this person to change these account numbers on these payments, and they did it, and it was like $500,000, and it was just gone. Yeah. And they were like, "How do we stop this in the future?" And I was like, "Well, you have to have two keys. You can't just let one person do it. You've got to have two people." Now, maybe it would have still worked, but I found that to be pretty reasonable. I mean, if I get the thing going, we could invest in this swampland that's going to be developed down in Texas, and we're going to make millions. And my wife would go, "What are you, stupid?" You know, so having that second person, even if it's a friend or somebody else, just to bounce things off of, that was my number one. And urgency. I think urgency is always the key to me, because they want to pressure you into doing this before you have time to think about it. So you have to watch for the hooks that get set on you, because they are better at that now.
One thing that we can also use is like keys that the same scammers use, right? Like run the letter or email or whatever you have right through AI. Just copy and paste it and send it through AI and say, "Is this a scam?" And most of the times the AI will tell you right back to you,
Yep.
yeah, this is a scam. And then that's your second opinion. You don't even need to ask anybody,
You don't
right?
need to
Or
post.
run a third or a fourth, right? But yeah, run it through AI. You can use the same tools.
I called this the Snopes test. So there's a website called Snopes.com, and they have like likelihood of like all kinds of urban legends and all kinds of things on there. And I 100% think that's an awesome suggestion, is to run it through an AI and say, hey, Claude, hey, Chatty, hey, Gemini, whatever AI you prefer, or all of them. What do you think about this? And they will, yeah, I'm going to do that next time I get one and just see what they say, because it's kind of curious. But I think that's smart. And, but it's always about that second opinion. It's just like, don't
Right.
react, think, and don't react. And that's tough. And you get stuff that hooks you, whatever that is, and whether it's greed. I think one of my favorite ones of all time was they were sending people charges from some kind of like sex toy company. And it was like, they had this list of very graphic sex toys, and they said, your account's being charged. We want to know, should we deliver these? And they had the delivery address was like the person's parents' house. And he was like, I don't know what to do about this. They're saying they're going to ship a box load of sex toys to my parents, and I'm being charged like $690.
Maybe they
but
can
Send
use
them
them.
away.
I don't know.
Yeah, send them away.
I was like, just send them over here. But he was like, should I call them? What should I do? It says click here. And I'm like, well, send me the link. And he sent me the link. And I said, yeah, this is the total scam. I was like, you didn't order any sex toys, right? Yeah, so maybe, but again, it was playing on that embarrassment. They're not going to want to bring this up somewhere. Maybe they had ordered some sex toys. Who knows? And, anything they can get to get you not talking and not thinking and to do this is always going to be that big hook that really works. I did want to ask you a little about AI scam baiters, like Daisy was the one that we were talking about before the show. Daisy, if you're not familiar, is a AI persona that you could use that basically ties up scammers for as long as they'll stay on the line, just pretending to be somebody's grandmother. Not my grandmother. She would be like, "Get lost, you punk."
I think anything to waste their time is always rewarding, right? Because the when they're speaking to these AIs or speaking to scam baiters, or even if you just put the phone down and bang some pots, it's always wasting their time. It makes them angry. They hang up, they call the next person. They might not be so nice to the next person, and that's valuable too. Like they call the next person and they're a little hostile to the next person. Maybe they click and they're like, nobody from Amazon's going to be talking to me like this. Hang up, and that's always a key too. So yeah, anything to waste their time is always value.
But I think they're going to use this same tactic. This is going to flip around, and now they can use a similar tool to try to get you.
I've seen this used. So one of the scammers I spoke to, it's not super common, thankfully, as of right now. I had a scammer call me, and then we were going through this, and they had a automated AI playing a bank teller, and they went through the whole thing saying that there's money in this account. I can get it if it's sort of the Nigerian prince scam, but this was from a bank, and then they would read out the bank balance, and they're like, "Oh, you have $23 million in this account," and I was like, "No way that they're doing this. This is crazy," because people could fall for it, and it's like just you got to be careful. You just got to be careful.
So I will tell you, one of the ways that I've helped people also is demand snail mail. Any official bank or any official company will send like, hey, can you send me a letter explaining this? And it's an opportunity to break the conversation, and it's an opportunity to get something that you're like, you read that. And again, typically they're horrible grammar. The seals aren't right. The logos aren't right, things like that. But it's it's tough for people.
Well,
to
and
think of
one
that
thing
in the
to
moment.
remember in the United States always is the IRS does not send a team of armed accountants to your house to break down the door, and they do not send
True.
emails, voicemails, texts, or anything else. They send only U.S. mail in an envelope. They do not and will not converse with you via any other medium than the good old U.S. mail. So just as tax season is arriving, this is, of course, a huge scam area where if they start with this, you're going to be audited and so forth. I did want to ask Rinoa, you have a scam guide, right? Do you have like a guidebook?
Yeah, it's on our website, rinoapoison.com, and it'll be under the tab scam guides. And we have a list of a bunch of different scams that we've come across and how to like watch out for them and what they exactly how they operate.
So renoapoison.com is a great website to go to for all this kind of resources. And now it's somebody that you've seen the name of. I think the last thing I wanted to mention to you is that I know that scam baiting kind of got started as a waste their time model. I prefer to think of it as an educational tool
Yeah.
because a lot of people would not probably come to my, scam training. You know, Steve is trying to get Dave to give him $25. It was a very boring kind of corporate-y thing. But the scam baiting videos on Twitch and on YouTube and all these other places are entertaining. But I think at the same time, people learn from that because they see what you're seeing. And I think that helps, don't you?
I 100% agree with that. I think comedy is always a good learning tool, when you can make something educational and because no one wants to sit through a boring like, oh, and then what we're gonna do to, they want to be entertained. People want to laugh. People want to, enjoy and then learn at the same time. And it's both rewarding and educational. I think that's the best way to learn. Yeah.
Have you got something new coming up on your channel, or are we going to see more scams in the near future? And what's the biggest exciting thing you've got coming up?
We have some scammers' computers we've been monitoring. So always look forward to that stuff. I always enjoy, exposing them. Turning the screen around on them is always fun. I definitely love doing that.
Yeah, I think everybody enjoys those videos a lot
Yes.
because I saw a lot of them after the last time you were on, and I was watching some of your videos, and it got on my feed, and I was basically all I got was you all day. I had like 50 things on there, and
You're contagious, Rinoa.
It's like a virus in itself.
yeah, I was like, wow, I don't get anything else anymore. But I think that's good. Josh, what's one big tip you would give everybody? I'm going to do one more thing, and then we're going to wrap. So
Honestly, use your critical faculties. Just think. Just stop, take a breath, and think. That is honestly
hardest thing
best
of all.
I can do.
Renoa, have you got a parting comment?
I think that is the perfect thing is just take a breath. Yeah, just take a step back. Think about, if it's money or if it's, just take a breath. It's really the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I think my parting comment is something my dad always said when I asked him for things was, what's this going to cost me? And it doesn't have to be money. I mean, it can be your credentials. It can be anything. I say,
Sure.
what are you giving up in this transaction? And this is always my criteria for this stuff. What am I giving up? If I'm just talking to some guy on the phone and giving him a hard time, all I'm giving up is my phone number, which he already had. But when I start
Right.
exchanging information with you, I start sharing things with you, I start downloading things from you, that's where things start. I'm giving something up now, whether it's privacy, money, or whatever it is I'm giving up. So I think use your faculties to stop and think, ask an AI. Ask an AI for help because, hey, they know. Ask a friend, ask a family member, ask I ask my wife because she's always critical of anything. I'm like, look at this deal on these cigars. She's like, you don't need cigars, and that's not a good deal. So it's like, regardless. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for watching the special Rinoa Poison edition of Security Weekly News, which is awesome. I will be flying back tonight and see you next week, along with Josh and everybody else on the Security Weekly News. Thanks, Rinoa.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.